All right, and welcome to the latest episode of What's Happening with me, Casey Foreman. Today's show is going to be a look around the association, and kicking things off is going to be Luka Doncic, his hot start to the season, and how he's stacking up quite the case to be this year's MVP. Also, the Detroit Pistons keep stacking up wins, and it has me thinking, is this hot streak of theirs sustainable? Is this going to be a team we talk about come playoff time? And then, wrapping things up before our NBA power pyramid, the Golden State Warriors. They've been the definition of mediocre up until this point. We're going to talk about if this current Warrior team is cooked. But before we dive into our content, I want to give a quick shout out to Dubby Energy. Are you tired of the same old energy drinks and how they make you feel after the fact? Well, Dubby's got you covered. They provide clean, safe, and great tasting focus energy drinks only containing 10 clean ingredients. They have a boatload of flavors to choose from, and you can use my code What's Happening at checkout and get 30% off of your purchase. Exclusions do apply, but go get energized and be better with Dubby. I'm going to have the link down there in the description of today's video. But let's kick things off with Luka Doncic and his hot start to the season. Maverick fans are just an absolute shambles right now. Luka is having an MVP caliber season while looking, in my opinion, like the best player in basketball. The stats say that, as well as his impact to this Los Angeles Laker team. Let's break down both features there, starting with the stats. He's just leading the league in scoring, 35 points per game, over 9 assists per game. That's top 5 in the league. And he's top 20 in rebounds for a point guard, just under 9 rebounds per game. So 35, 9, and 8, just under 9 rebounds per game, though. The only other player in the association, in the NBA, putting up such well-rounded numbers is Nikola Jokic. We know how many MVPs this guy has. If you want to give him another one, we know how good his team is. They're putting up another, top of the West performance. We know he's putting up another MVP caliber performance. So if you want to say Jokic is being more well-rounded, I'm not going to fight with you. And if you just want to name the MVP award after Nikola Jokic at this point, again, no complaints here. It's getting to the point where, when LeBron James was in the prime of his career and you could have just given him the MVP every single season, that's kind of how it feels like right now with Nikola Jokic. It's like, yeah, you could give it to Nikola, but take him out. Let's just take Jokic out of the equation for a moment. No one else has such well-rounded numbers, 35, 9, and 8 for Luka. And then if you want to look at SGA, the other guy who could say, how are you not going to give it to the player who's leading the 19-1, the team that's barely lost this season, looks unbeatable? Yeah, okay, that's an argument. That's definitely a take that you can have. And I have a little bit of pushback there. SGA just has, in comparison to Luka, a much better team, the far better team in Oklahoma City than what they have in Los Angeles. At least that's what all the professionals were saying. That's what everyone, including me, was saying preseason up until we saw this hot start from LA. And, talking about how good that Thunder team is, are they the best team? I'm going to break it down a little bit more in the NBA Power Pyramid. So you Thunder fans, check out the NBA Power Pyramid for more OKC talk. But this OKC team could be the best we've seen in the regular season since the 73-win Warriors. Take everything into consideration. Let's take Jokic out for a moment because he's won all the MVPs, and if you want to give him his 4th MVP, fine, go ahead and give it to him. But I'm going to go ahead and just take him out of the equation, similar to what we did to LeBron James earlier in his career, in the prime of his career. Jokic has the better team. I'm sorry, SGA has the better team. Misspoke there. And he isn't even putting up the same numbers that Luka is. Luka's putting up more points, more rebounds, more assists. And yes, his team is not 19-1, but Luka's not playing on the best team we've seen since the 73-win Warriors, is he? Right? So that's the stats so far. That kind of points to him being the best player in basketball right now. And then let's look at the Lakers. Let's look at his impact on this Lakers squad. They sit at 2nd in the Western Conference right now. So they've been top 3 all season long, and I want to ask you guys a question. Get down there in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. Would that normally be the case, right? Would that normally be the case for this LA team if LeBron has only played 3 games in the season, if he's missed so much time, right? LeBron misses all that time. Anthony Davis is still on the roster, not Luka Doncic. Are they still top 3 in the Western Conference? Are they still the 2nd seed behind none only than the Oklahoma City Thunder? I'm going to bet no, but considering Anthony Davis has already missed time this season due to injury, right? So that's out of the ordinary for this Laker team for the past 5 years or so to be sitting at this spot, especially without LeBron James in the lineup. I'm going to take it one step further. With LeBron James being your 3rd string, your 3rd best player, with the emergence of Austin Reaves' scoring, putting up close to 28 points per game, LeBron James is kind of just sitting back, averaging 18, 19 points per game, grabbing a rebound when he needs to, finding the open man. He's still getting those assists. Those assist numbers are still up there. But again, he's able to kind of take a step back and just kind of do whatever the team needs him to do on a nightly basis in comparison to the past 5 years, needing him to be the best player on the roster. Right? Because we know Anthony Davis wasn't consistent enough, wasn't available enough. So still, everyone was still relying on the 39-year-old, 38-year-old, 40-year-old LeBron James. Now it's not the case with Luka here, right? So look at this Laker team, how different they are this season in comparison to prior ones. And then look at the Lakers' stats overall. They're leading the league in field goal percentage. So they have been super efficient offensively. But guess what? They are last in shot attempts. So despite being the most efficient offense, they're taking the least amount of shots. So you could say, oh, if they were up there at the very top, you could say, oh man, they're shooting the most shots. Okay, at least they're making a super high percentage since they're shooting so many shots. Not the case. They're shooting the least amount of shots in the NBA while knocking down the most effective field goal percentage in the league goes to your Los Angeles Lakers. So is there a clear sign of a Luka Doncic offense? You stack all that stuff up, and in my opinion, Luka Doncic is looking like not only the MVP of the league so far, but like the best player in the association. Get down there and comment your thoughts. Is it SGA? Is it Luka? Is it Jokic? Is it Giannis, despite his record, having a losing record up until this point of the year? I think they're 8-12 as I record this episode. So get down there in the comments. Let me know who's the best player in the world. I think it's Luka Doncic. Let's continue on and talk about the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons, again, back-to-back NBA episodes, and we're talking about the Pistons again. That's a record that has never happened in the longevity of me doing media, me talking sports. Never once have I talked the Detroit Pistons in back-to-back episodes. That streak is broken. Let's dive into it. This team, they've been the hottest team in the Eastern Conference, the best team in the Eastern Conference up until this point. They had a 13-game win streak, folks. A 13-game win streak for the Pistons. I couldn't tell you the last time we've seen this type of play in Detroit. Maybe I can. 2004, they won the title, right? So maybe back in 2004, you could say, was the last time we saw this great of play, this level of competency from the Detroit Pistons. As far as who's to blame or where the credit kind of deserves to go, we'll talk about that here in just a second. But this Piston team is top 10 in offensive and defensive rating. Okay, so they're a top 10 team on both sides of the ball. You got your star player, your number 1 overall draft pick in Cade Cunningham, having an all-NBA caliber season. 28 points per game, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, while again leading, so far, the best team in the Eastern Conference. Not only is he having a career best season, you got Jalen Duren, 19-11. You got Ausar Thompson, the brother of the guy over on the right. We're not even talking about him. We're not talking about your brother. Usually when you talk about Ausar, you got to talk about Amar, but we're only going to talk about Ausar here. 12 points, 5 rebounds, a steal, and a block, a two-way versatile guy. Still has to work on that jump shot a little bit, though. You got Tobias Harris. You got Duncan Robinson. Yeah, Duncan Robinson is on the Pistons now, if you guys aren't aware of that. I tuned in the other day to my first Pistons game. Okay, sorry, Pistons fans out there. I really haven't been tuning in that much, but tuned into my first Pistons game the other day. I was like, okay, let's check out this team. Are they legitimate? I'm like, hey, Duncan Robinson's on this roster. Man, I forgot about that. But either way, him as well as Tobias Harris in that veteran role, they're both putting up like 12, 13 points per game, have been consistent, have been like, hey, let's lean towards our veterans in a time of need. The other team's on a run. We need a quick three. We need a stop. We need a guy we can kind of rely on. Harris and Duncan Robinson have been those two kind of veterans for this squad. I've been impressed. And the one guy in Detroit that I really haven't talked about yet because he hasn't done much this season, which could be a little scary. We were talking about how good this team has already been and how they could get better. Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey has been in a limited role after his knee injury last year. He's only been averaging less than 20 minutes a game, less than 10 points per game in comparison to the first 3 seasons of his career with Detroit, where he was putting up 15, 16, 17 points per game and was a somewhat reliable starter for this team, right? As a young, up-and-coming offensive player, his role has been, decreased a lot since JB Bickerstaff has taken over here. And again, I think it is because of the knee injury. I think they are kind of easing him back into the rotation. I hope this isn't the new version of Jaden Ivey. If it is, I kind of take back what I just said. But I think he can get back, if given the role, to 16, 17 points per game. And imagine this Piston team, who's already at the top of the Eastern Conference, adding a 16 to 17 point per night score in Jaden Ivey to their rotation, more to their lineup. Yeah, that's scary. That means that this team could be, this run they're on could be sustainable through March, through February into May. I don't know. Are they going to be playing in April? I don't know. I don't know. If they keep playing like this, though, they definitely will be. They've earned my respect. JB Bickerstaff is the coach of the year up until this point. If you want to give it to Mark Daigneault, that's fine. Give it to Mark Daigneault. They've lost one game. Give it to him. Okay, but outside of him, you're giving it to the guy coaching the Detroit Pistons and JB Bickerstaff. They've earned my respect. But again, I still want to see it before I legitimately say this team has a chance to win the Eastern Conference, to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. I have got to see this type of play in February and in March. But I've been very impressed. Go Pistons. So far, buying or selling this Pistons hot start? I'm buying it. But I'm not all the way bought in, if that makes any sense. All right, let's transition now and talk about a team that's just been the definition of mediocre and average up until this point. And yes, the Golden State Warriors. That's who I'm talking about. You see Steph behind me. It gives me no pleasure to talk about the team this way. But they're just in this funk right now as to where they win a game, they lose a game. They win a couple of games, they lose a couple of games, right? This team is bottom 10 in offensive rating and just outside of the top 10 in defensive rating, right? So they're a bottom 10 offense and just outside of the top 10 in defense. Let me explain what that means. They don't do anything very well. They're mediocre, if not bad, on both sides of the ball. And that's despite having a Hall of Famer, the best point guard of all time on your team in Steph Curry. And it doesn't help, okay? It doesn't help having your best on-ball defender out for an extended period of time. I'm talking about Jonathan Kuminga because he has developed into what is the best perimeter defender for this Warrior team, or one of the best perimeter defenders for this Warrior team. So it doesn't help when you have your young stud defender out with injury. But even before he got hurt, I think we all started to see the Kuminga decline in play in comparison to those first 10 games, 7 games where it's like he's passing the ball first, he's not just looking for his shot, and he's really locking down and focusing on the defensive end, defensive side of the ball. Past 10 games, past 8 games, okay, past 8 or so games, that really hasn't been the case for Kuminga. And as if things weren't bad enough, we've gotten to the point of the season where Jimmy Butler is just checked out. Okay, and I'm not talking about his play on the court. He's still putting up 20 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and is being fine defensively. I'm talking about post-game Jimmy Butler, locker room Jimmy Butler, as to where he's talking about his teammates post-game. He's straight up just trashing the team and his teammates in post-game conferences. and he's saying how we don't do this, we don't do anything well, and he's not really accepting any of the blame onto himself, which is what real leaders do whenever your team faces adversity. He's kind of just pointing the finger, saying it's them, he's not trying hard enough, he's not doing this. Meanwhile, not really pointing the finger at himself, taking any blame for this lackluster kind of funk that they're in so far here. 500 through 20 games, hovering right around 7th, 8th in the Western Conference, and they're still bottom 10 in rebounds per game. This team is still way too small. So if you add everything up, okay, let's kind of whip out our calculator here and do some addition, some simple addition, okay? They're in a funk. They can't win more than 1 or 2 games in a row. They're bottom 10 in offense. They're outside of the top 10 in defense. Their best on-ball, youngest defender is out with injury. And then, like I said, the Jimmy Butler checked out portion of the season already starting, 20 games in, and this team still can't get a rebound. As is this Golden State Warriors squad. I hate to see it. They seem cooked. They seem like they don't have a chance in the Western Conference, and that simply the best season this squad can put together would be avoiding the play-in tournament and being a 6th seed in the Western Conference. I think that would be a huge win for this squad as far as what we've seen so far. And yes, we want to give them a little bit of a break because of the schedule they face. No one has had more road games and more back-to-back games than the Golden State Warriors this year. Okay, they've played 4 more games than a couple of other teams have played. They've already played more than 20 games. Okay, so when you're looking at the stats and all the other teams and what they've played and what their schedules are looking like, let's give Golden State a slight pass because, again, it has been no walk in the park to start this season for one of the oldest rosters in the NBA. So let's give them a little bit of a break there, but they're still too small. Kuminga's injury, the whole Jimmy Butler locker room crap that's already started with this team. It looks like they're cooked, and they're moving down to a pretender status, not to kind of spoil our next segment, our NBA Power Pyramid. But this team does not have what it takes. Some serious moves are needed before we get to our trade deadline. But that's pretty much all the news that I wanted to talk about around the association. Now it's time for our NBA Power Pyramid. Time for one of my favorite segments here on the show, our NBA Power Pyramid. And if you haven't seen this segment before, this is our twist on the NBA Power Rankings, though it's not the Power Rankings. So if you see a team kind of out of place in your mind, get down there in the comment section, tell me your thoughts, and I'll try to justify it right here on the show as well as down there in the comment section. But let's dive in to what this thing is going to look like. Okay, you see it right over here on my side. We have our rebuilders, our pretenders, our contenders, and our ring chasers, the absolute top dogs. I don't think those need too much explaining. So let's dive right into our first level here, our rebuilders. Okay, and right off the bat, people are seeing some teams like the Dallas Mavericks are rebuilders. The Los Angeles Clippers, yeah, they need to be rebuilding. Okay, I talked about the Dallas Mavericks a couple of weeks ago on the show, saying how they need to pick a timeline. Is it a win now timeline with Anthony Davis, with Kyrie Irving, or are you going to develop your players and the roster with Cooper Flag right there at the center? They haven't done anything. No moves have been made. They've actually came out and said the opposite. They're going to keep everybody on this roster, keep this roster the way it is. Maybe some small changes here and there, like a Klay Thompson being moved, stuff like that. But the core pieces, they said, they're not moving them, and they are going to build with them going forward, trying to win right now. In my opinion, that's the wrong move. This team is a rebuilder. You sit at the very bottom of the Western Conference, and the only thing you're missing, not to say the only thing, because Kyrie Irving is a very good player, can give you 20, 25 points a game, and we know what he does in the clutch, in big moments for your team, and, propelling you to victory. So we know how big of a deal he is and how good he's been for this Dallas Mavericks squad since he was traded here a couple of years ago. So we know that. Let's kind of just take that off of the table. Kyrie has been a very good player, but Kyrie solves 4-13. Whatever this, at the very bottom of the Western Conference, Kyrie Irving puts you at the top of it? I don't think so. No matter how good a player Kyrie Irving is, this roster needs some serious work, some retooling. I consider the Mavericks to be rebuilders. The Clippers think they have some pieces here and there despite Bradley Beal going down. I was wrong. Scrap everything, start from the bottom, start again, because this Clipper team just ain't it. There's literally nothing you can point to as far as the Los Angeles Clippers right now, as far as a positive. They sit at 5-14 as I record this episode, nowhere near the top in points per game, nowhere near the top in defensive rating. So they're not great on either side of the ball. They're old. They got players like Chris Paul announcing a retirement tour, saying, hey, that's what this season is. I'm retiring. Let's have fun. This final non-ring, this ringless season that Chris Paul is going to have once again. So no, the Clippers are in no way even pretenders at this point. I got to put them down there in rebuilders. And same thing, you got your Wizards, you got your Hornets, your Brooklyn Nets, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Chicago Bulls. Despite a hot start, they're down in the rebuild. Hey, let's scrap this thing. Let's trade Nikola Vucevic. Let's build around. If you want to build around Josh Giddey, go ahead. But let's try to rebuild with some of the young players on this roster and move some of the older ones, right? So those are our rebuilders. And really quickly, we also have the Indiana Pacers on this rebuilder list. I had them as a pretender last time we did this segment, but after looking, come on, sitting at next to the bottom of the Eastern Conference, the Washington Wizards, the only team below you, you are 3-16 as I record this episode. And yes, I know you lost Miles Turner, and I know that Tyrese Halliburton is out for the whole season. But for a team that was just in the NBA Finals, I just took the Oklahoma City Thunder that looks unbeatable right now to 7 games in the NBA Finals just a handful of months ago. For them to be this bad, okay, minus those 2 players, yeah, it's time to rebuild and really start thinking about how you're going to get back to the NBA Finals. Because this current roster, you just add Tyrese to it, not going to be good enough, guys. This is a rebuild all the way. So let me know down there in the comment section, what do you think of our rebuilders? Let's move on. Our pretenders, some teams that just don't have enough to contend, but maybe they have a star player. Maybe they just made a big trade this offseason that has a lot of buzz surrounding their team. And, maybe their fan bases have some high expectations. I'm just not super high at this moment on these teams. Let's bring them out, our pretenders. Some good teams on this list. You could say, how are the Toronto Raptors? Pretenders. What are they doing right here? Do you seriously think Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, and company and Jakob Poeltl, go down the list, Emmanuel Quickly, you think they're good enough to win a title, to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, to win the East? No. And I don't think they're that close, but again, they have a nice set of players as to where I think that this hot streak is going to fizzle out. They are going to find themselves probably more towards the 6th, 5th spot in that Eastern Conference, but it's been a very good start to the season. Still, in my eyes, not enough to fully contend. The Raptors are still pretenders. And yes, you see the Golden State Warriors in this group of pretenders. It gives me no pleasure to do it, but let's be realistic about this squad and what they've been so far this season. The definition of average, of mediocre, hovering right around that 7th, 8th spot in the Western Conference. They can't win more than 1 or 2 games in a row, because then we see a losing streak being put together. And the whole Jimmy Butler being checked out in the locker room thing, we're 20 games in, and we're already seeing this. This team is a pretender. Hate to say it, are contenders. couple of teams moving down, a couple of teams moving up. Most recently, the Detroit Pistons. I talked about them earlier in the show. They keep stacking up wins like that. They keep going on, a 13-game winning streak. I know that has been snapped, but if they keep playing this way, it's going to be hard for me not to take them seriously. Yes, I want to see it in February, when the schedule gets a little bit tougher, when you have all those back-to-backs like Golden State is seeing so far this year. But nonetheless, it's been super impressive. And how can I not have them? At this point in the season, they're still at the very top of the Eastern Conference. They got to be right there in our list of contenders. Also, a little bit of movement as far as our contenders go. The Knicks dropping down, still in our contender group, but the Los Angeles Lakers bumping up a couple of spots. And in my eyes, looking like the second best team in the NBA. You got the best player in my eyes, okay, in my opinion, in Luka Doncic, the MVP of the league. You got LeBron James being the third string, the third fiddle to Austin Reaves and Luka. You got DeAndre Ayton playing very solid basketball, giving you, 13 points, a handful of rebounds per game. The bench has been there. I've been nothing but impressed with this Lakers squad, nothing but surprised. And Luka Doncic, he looks re-energized. He looks ready to make a run again in that Western Conference, in this Western Conference. So I have the Lakers right there at the top of our contenders. But very impressive play so far from the Denver Nuggets, from the New York Knicks, from the Houston Rockets. There's only one team left to break down once again back-to-back NBA power pyramids. We have the Oklahoma City Thunder at the very top. Our ring chasers. And just look at what this team has done so far. They have lost a single game at the point of this recording. They're in the top 5 in offense. They're in the top 10 in defense. It's the deepest roster in the NBA. And as far as NBA regular season teams go, how can you not say it's the best we've seen since Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Steve Kerr went and won 73 games in 2016? So in my eyes, the best regular season team we've seen since Golden State in 2016. How are they not at the very top of our NBA power pyramid? So get down there in the comment section. Let me know what you think. We got Oklahoma City sitting up there at the top all by themselves. The Lakers, not too far behind them in my eyes, the second best team in the NBA. The Knicks, the Nuggets, the Rockets, the Pistons, the Timberwolves, the Cavs, all rounding out our contenders. Pretenders, highlighting our pretenders, are going to be the Raptors, the Warriors, and the Miami Heat. Down there in the rebuilders, yes, the Dallas Mavericks are rebuilders. The Los Angeles Clippers should be rebuilding. And I'm sorry, Indiana, despite just being in the NBA Finals, you got some serious moves to make to get back to that point. But again, let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section. And one more time, I'm going to ask everyone to hit that subscribe button, to hit that like button, and even send this video to someone you think might like it as well. But that's going to do it for this episode of What's Happening. For me, Casey Foreman, we'll see you next time.